Hello, my name is Leona Dominguez Muller. I'm from the Academy of Arts, Careers, and Technology, and today I'm doing a STAR event on job interview. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the planning process. And so with identify concerns is I need a job, and setting a goal, I need a job I'm qualified for, and I didn't want it to be too far away. So I set my limit at 45 minutes just because I don't drive, and so I could ride my bike or walk within that range and be okay. Forming a plan, so I have to search for jobs that I'm qualified for, determine which ones I like, write my resume, cover letter, and fill out the application for the job, send in applications to all of the jobs that I felt necessary or that piqued my interest, and then check emails and voicemails to see if I've heard back from any of them in regards to the job. As far as acting, so that's kind of the plan, part of the plan. So building the application and doing the interviews. And if I get the job, I'll start work. If not, I'll start back at step one and we'll go all the way through and find something else that piques my interest and is hiring. Following up, so since I haven't really gone through this yet, I don't know exactly what could have gone better, but I did realize that it's a little bit more stressful than I would have thought to try and apply for an interview or apply for a job, because the interview was a lot, because it's nerve-wracking, like talking to someone that you don't know and you don't know how they're going to take your personality or your work ethic. But I realized you kind of just have to be confident in your own work and how you presented yourself, because that's really the best you can give anyone is your best. So next is the evidence of online project summary. So that's just for you, and then job specification. So I applied for the Sierra Kids program, which is up in Northern Nevada, up here in Reno, I guess. This is virtual, but that's where it was last year. Anyways, the job title is a before and after care worker. So that's what it is. It's basically just taking care of kids before and after school, and making sure that you're cleaning the place, you're watching them, helping them with homework. You also have to have like activities because you want to keep it fun. You don't want to just bore the kids. So you're kind of just there. It's almost like a babysitter, but for school. So you also have to, be professional, and you also have to take calls from parents, and you have to have parent meetings sometimes, because you're also controlling like behavioral issues. And so the required hours, so I contacted them specifically for my age range to see what it would be, and they said about 10 to 19 hours a week, and the average wage was about $9 to $10 per hour. And then next we go into the business communication. So I have my first recommendation, which is from my school advisor for FCCLA, Mrs. Locke. And then my second is from David, who is my state advisor. And then next I go into my cover letter, which is mostly for you, where you can kind of just inspect my writing and see how I would focus my words and how I would present myself to my hiring manager, just to kind of give them that last push as to why they should hire me instead of every other applicant. And then next I go into my resume, which starts with my work experience. So I've worked in childcare since I was pretty young, maybe around 11, I would say. I've been babysitting, I've worked in churches for childcare, and I also worked in my school's preschool all of my sophomore year, and I've been a tutor for quite a few people. I can work to most grades up to about the 10th grade, I believe, is kind of where I'm comfortable teaching, at least helping a bit. And then I've also volunteered for painting and photo shoots, so that's just kind of another bit of experience that I have in different fields. And then the other part of my resume is my education, so that's at the Academy of Careers Technology, and maintaining a 4.0 GPA in all of my courses. And I also have been enrolled in TMCC, which is a community college up in Reno, and I've taken a few courses from them just to kind of get me credit based on the career that I want to go into. So I've taken Criminal Justice 101, psychology, sociology, and I'm currently taking political science. Next are my skills. So I'm a very creative and open-minded person. I'm really easy to work with, I think, because I'm really negotiable. So if we both have two separate ideas, we can meet in the middle. We'll figure something out. And I'm very patient. So I think that brings a lot in the workforce because you're not always going to be with people that you absolutely endear. So it's really good to have patience, especially if I'm working with kids. That too, because kids can get a little wild, and some people can't always take that. And I'm a pretty mellowed out person, so I think I can handle that fairly well. And then as far as achievements, that's mainly based in FCCLA, since I've been in that for 3 years now, just kind of some of my accomplishments that I've made there. I've also been in HOSA, and I'm currently a blue senior belt in MMA. I've been training for about 3 years now. And so it kind of just some of my achievements. And I also just recently received the President's Award for volunteering. Let's see. Next, I have my employment application, which is mainly the formal stuff like my contact information and my advisors, but it also includes activities that I've done. So I've done lacrosse. I'm currently training in MMA. I have a book club. I work in FCCLA. I've been in HOSA before. I've been a child care leader. Just those kinds of basic activities that I've put myself into. And then skills and qualifications, once again, just delves into my my experience in the childcare system, public relations, just talking, or customer relations, talking with them and being familiar with how to remain professional. Then I have just kind of the rest of the application, which is just more formal stuff about myself. And then as far as career-related education, like I said, my high school has a preschool attached to it. And so all of my sophomore year, I worked in there. And I've also I took human development my freshman year, and I've taken teaching and training 1 and 2 my sophomore and junior year. So I have that basic understanding of how to work around kids. So it's kind of just that foundation of what to use when I'm working with kids. And I found that very useful because it kind of just prepares you for how to work with them and what works for each kind of different personality, because every student is so different. And obviously these applied rules aren't going to work for everybody, but it's a really good starting place to understanding kids. So it definitely makes the job a lot easier once you know how to work with kids of different ages or abilities or anything of the sort. And as far as my interest, I've never really been interested in the education field, but I definitely dove into it a little bit for this project, just to kind of see maybe I'm interested in something that I had never thought of before. And I definitely understood it a bit more, and I found an interest in it, but it's not necessarily something I want to do for the rest of my life, just because I have my sights set on something else. And I have since a pretty young age, so I don't want to change that up. But I found it very interesting to look into the career. As far as applying my knowledge, like I said, I've been in childcare for quite a while, since a very young age. But recently, it was actually last April, so almost a year ago, when COVID kind of really hit everybody, a family friend had messaged me and asked if I could watch her kids, because her husband had just lost his job. And so she was the only one working in the family, and she didn't have anyone to watch the kids because the father was trying to go out and get jobs, and he was always moving around, and it was just very difficult for her. And so I was like, yeah, I'll watch the kids. But she didn't really have a whole lot of money to offer, and I was like, I don't want to rob you of your money, so let's just find a super low rate and we'll just work it through. Like, your kids are super easy to work with because they're kind of older kids, so they can pretty much be independent for most of the day. They can go on like a tablet or do their schoolwork, or they can color, or they can read books, pretty much anything that they really want. I don't have to do too much with them other than the time allotted to school time, which we do have, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So I was working with these kids for a while, and then soon I was like, well, maybe I can do more with this, because if they're struggling, there must be other families out there that are struggling with the same problem. So I opened it up. I think either myself or my mom, I might have asked to put it on Facebook, just to reach out to as many people as she could. And basically I wrote out this thing, and then I just had her post it. And it was basically saying, hey, I'm starting this business. I'll take all kids and I'll watch them during the day. I'll help them with school. I can keep them while you're at work. And, we'll work through this remote learning, and we'll, have a good time. And I want them to know that their kids were in a safe place. So I am CPR certified. So if any emergency happens, I know what to do. And because I know it's scary for parents to leave their children with just, whoever. But at the end of the day, a lot of parents really need it, and they don't They don't need to be charged thousands of dollars for it, I don't believe. So I started working with a bunch of other families. At first, it was just a bunch of smaller families, but now I kind of have a more consistent list. I believe I have 10 kids: Chloe, Caitlin, Carson, Caleb, Cora, Cosette, Cadence, Judah, Mackenzie, and Hayden. And I actually have 2 more twins coming my way within a few weeks. And so it's going pretty well. I've been watching these kids for, like I said, almost a year now, which is kind of crazy to think. But I realize how helpful it can be for parents, and I think that's just a really good way to, put my time and my knowledge. I think the experience has been really helpful, and I really love what I do. I love working with them, and I've really fell in love with like working with the children and helping them with their school. And I'm not saying in any way that it'd be a career I would want to do, but I just found a lot of joy in it. Like, we read books together, we have story time, we sing songs, we play games. And I was like, I really took on this role because I really always loved people like Nanny McPhee or Mary Poppins growing up. And so I always kind of wanted to be that person. So whenever I was babysitting or working with kids, I've always kind of been that energetic, creative, and fun kind of person that they can be around, because I don't want school to seem boring for them. If they're doing their homework, I want them to enjoy it. I want them to find some sort of fun way to do this, because so many students fall into this pit of just not liking school, and it's because they're bored. That's where it comes from. They don't have an interest in it. But if you can make it interesting, then it's not as bad, and then we don't have so many students plummeting over the years. And another thing is people don't like reading enough, and I think the biggest problem is that they don't know what they're interested in. I believe that there's a book for everyone. I think you just have to take the time to find it. So I actually have a really big library over here in my room, and so I have it ranging from like all age levels, and I just like to offer them pretty much whatever I have. And I'll be like, here's a bunch, and if they don't find anything, we'll look it up online, and we'll be like, books for this age group, and I'll have them look through a long list. And if it has a cool cover, they say don't judge a book by a cover, but that's a pretty good way to judge a book when you have a creative mind, because if they have a good picture on the front, the inside is almost guaranteed to be perfect, because the illustration is based on the contents. So judging a book by its cover isn't best for humans, but for books, I gotta say, it's not a bad tactic, especially for kids. And so once they find something they're interested in, we can either read it together or they'll read on their own. A lot of the younger kids do like group reading, and so I'll read a book to everyone. And even some of the younger kids, we're like, yeah, we'll have our independent reading, which is where you kind of read at your age level, but then we'll have the fun books that we all read together, and then we'll have a big group session, and we'll read these great stories, and it just opens everybody's imagination. And I think that's so wonderful, because kids don't always need to be so caught up in the superficial element of schooling, and I think we just need to make it a little bit more fun so that they actually enjoy it rather than ending up hating school. So that's just always been something that's very important to me. And next up, we have educational enhancement opportunities. So this is kind of just restating everything I have before. I've worked in my school, I have my babysitting business, I've worked in churches, I've applied my school knowledge, and I've worked in the food industry, so that gave me experience talking to others and taking orders and having to work under pressure and having to deal with all of those things all at once. And then examples of skills, I've always worked with children really well. It's just kind of, I'm a very childish and upbeat kind of person. So you could say that works really well with children, just because they don't want, I guess, children just get kind of tired of dull adults telling them what to do all the time. So it's a little bit more fun and enjoyable when you have someone who understands you and who can teach you without yelling at you so much. And this doesn't go to say that I don't have punishment, I don't have lines, I don't have boundaries. I do. I don't think I use them to the extent that many adults do. I let them know that I am the one in charge at the end of the day, and they do need to have respect. That's very important. And most of them do. Once you set that boundary that they need to respect you, but they don't have to necessarily be your obeyer, I think that's a really good place to set yourself with kids, because they know that, hey, if this person tells me I got to go do this, I got to go do this. But if they know if I'm yelling at them to like way too much to an extent, they know they can be like, Miss Leona, please be respectful to me. I'm being respectful to you. So we respect each other. I respect them, they respect me. That's how it works. It's balance. And I think that's a really good way to work with kids. And it goes pretty well for me because I don't have very many behavioral issues, even with families that have said their kids are off the walls crazy or just they can't get them under control. I work with them, and I'm not trying to like show up the parents. I'll simply tell them. Another thing this kind of delves into is that I'm kind of good with my words when talking to adults in person. I kind of know how to act and what to say when. It's just kind of something that I've picked up being around a lot of adults in my lifetime. So talking to them about their children's behavioral issues and how we can help them is something that I'm fairly good at. Just being able to respect the parents without telling them, hey, you're doing an awful job at your job with your kids. Like, no, I'm not going to tell any parent that. I'm just going to tell them, hey, this is what I found that works with so-and-so. And so I'm like, it works. So maybe you can try it out at your house. If you don't like it, totally fine. If you don't want me to do that with your child, I won't. I will always respect the parents overruling. So if they tell me they don't like something about the way I'm working with the kids, I'm like, okay. If it's something I'm willing to adjust, I'll say, okay, we'll work on that. I'll find something else. We'll find another way to work with so and so. But if it's something so deep that I like really believe in, like if they were to tell me, you need to be more authoritative. No, I think I have good balance and I know my own judgment, so I'm not going to let them interfere with that. I'm going to be like, you can enroll your child in a normal daycare now, if that's what you want. But if you want me to continue doing my work the way I'm doing it, then I'll be here for you and I'll assist you and your child in any way that you need. So I'm also super friendly. That's just kind of my personality. Is like I know when to step out of that friendly zone, like I said, but for the most part, I'm a very people-y person. I'm very good at talking and working with people, and I mostly enjoy it. And I'm thorough with every bit of work that I do. That's very important to me. I don't want any child left unattended or that I don't want them to feel like they're not cared of just because I have 10 kids sometimes in my house at once. I don't want them to think, oh, I'm spending too much time with this kid. So a lot of the things we do together because I don't want anyone to feel singled out. And that's pretty much it for my job interview. So I guess I'll see you in the actual interview section of it. Thank you so much.